Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about something that seems to be all over the XRP Twitter sphere today, and it's the idea of Swift utilizing XRP for settlements within their Swift system. Is there anything to this? Well, I'm going to tell you first of all where this came from. Got some very smart people within the XRP community sharing their opinions on what it means, and I will share with you what I believe is actually going on here. Will Swift actually use XRP? Definitely got some thoughts on that. Also, I want to cover with you, there was a debate yesterday between Tone Vase and David, I'm going to butcher the last name, Gockstein. I apologize, David. I'm sure I'm saying your name wrong, but I'm doing my best here. But there's a debate between those two. And for those of you who don't know, Tone Vase is a very noted Bitcoin maximalist, and he's very anti-Ripple, very anti-XRP. And David, who I've seen his name just having been in crypto for a while, I don't really know a whole lot about him, but he's a Forbes writer. And so anyway, they debated on Blocks TV, so I'm going to cover with you some of my thoughts from what happened there. And then the last thing I'll cover in this particular video is a non-XRP related piece, and it's from Cointelegraph, and it has to do with the fact that the fiat currency in Venezuela it's inflated by 10 million%, and it's resulted in increased volume in Venezuela on Bitcoin, actual buying and selling trading on Bitcoin, which is highly fascinating for a number of reasons, which I will get into, again, towards the end of this particular video. But before we get going here, if you would please delicately tap the like button, and if you are a fan of Ripple and XRP, go ahead and subscribe. And into the content, I got this tweet from @alltheway08, and he tweeted out, "Yep, saw it this morning," and he tagged me and the digital asset investor. And it was a retweet of something from Thomas S., which states, he says, Google Swift used Ripple, and this is the first result. They went back and changed the content, but if you view page source on the site, the metadata is still there. And if you click on it here we go. Swift uses Ripple with successful instant cross-border trials between, and then it kind of cuts off there. And then here's the other one right here. Yeah, you can see, so here's the part that he highlighted. Again, this is in the metadata. A successful trial of instant cross-border transfers has been carried out by Swift using Ripple payment systems. And here's another one that he highlighted. Excuse me, sorry guys. A successful trial of instant cross-border transfers has been carried out by Swift using Ripple payment systems, and it says instapay.today article/Swift and all that good stuff right there. Anyway, and so people were obviously, understandably, talking about this. And let me hop over to the next tab here, and this is what I wanted to share with you specifically. So there's a Twitter user named Guest1. He is @freedom944299944. It just rolls off the tongue. Anyway, he tweeted this out. "I have gone through the code repository and have some further clarifications which I will expand in this thread. Conclusion of this thread in advance. Corda users can submit payments to Swift, and settlements for these Swift payments will be done via XRP. Interesting claim there. And so, of course, I did read through this. And so here's the thread, and then I'm going to go back to the thread that I'm on right now to kind of read through some additional thoughts from others on this. But here's tweet number 2 on this topic from Guest1. An initial implementation for the Swift gateway was added on February 23rd, 2019, migrated to the Swift API on March 16th, 2019. He's got a screen capture here. I don't think I need to pull it up for the sake of this video, but I'll link below, so you feel free to check it out if you'd like. Next tweet from Guest1. Integration test for XRP and Swift. And again, there's a screen capture here. Feel free to check it out if you'd like in the future. And tweet 4. Please note that integration test for XRP and Swift is under the commit added an initial implementation for the Swift gateway. This means that the XRP integration is not necessarily an integration of XRP with Corda Settler, but is most likely XRP integration with Swift, which is fascinating. Fascinating claim here. And then tweet number 5, sources, and then he links to GitHub. And then tweet number 6, some additional findings from the migrated to new Swift API GitHub commit. And then here's the line that he highlighted. Verify settlement code for Swift given the above likely XRP. And there's another screen grab there. And here's tweet number 7 from him. And more settlement related code. You have code for obligations when you want to keep track of that obligation and settle it. And then there's another screen capture there. And then tweet number 8. Source for the migrated to the new Swift API commit. And then there's the link right there again. And tweet number 9. I know this is a lot, guys. I promise I'm going to get into what I think about this, but I needed to cover this for you. Tweet number 9. Some more code where XRP and Swift can be seen alongside one another. And there's a screen capture. And here's another one. Tweet number 10. This part of the code is interesting to me. Institutions can have a choice of XRP and Swift as 2 separate settlement methods. However, who will settle with Swift if there's a choice to settle with XRP? And there's a screen capture there too. Tweet number 11. Does anyone know how to get in touch with Ivan or Roger? It looks like they will know the full picture. And there's another screen capture there also. And tweet number 12. This is the last in the thread of tweets from guest 1. Amidst a lot of the confusion in the source code, one thing is clear. I don't think that we would find so much Swift code in the Corda repo if Ripple, R3, and Swift were not partners. If Swift did not play along, they will have been replaced, meaning zero observable code. I want to state something, and this has just popped in my head now that guest 1 wrote that. There was something, I covered this within the last few weeks or so, there is some sort of partnership between R3 and Swift, and now I can't remember the specifics. It was just one day worth of news, and I read through it, and I covered it. I can't remember all of the details, but that could have something to do with this also, so I thought I should throw that in there since it just popped in my head here. But let me go back, and let's get some thoughts from a couple other XRP community members, and then I want to share with you what I think about this, what this actually means here. And so in response to the first tweet on this concept of Corda Settler using XRP and Swift using XRP as a result to settle, Crypto Hodler tagged Mike Nardolillo, I hope I said that right, and said, "What's your take on this?" And Michael responded, "This is common and has been the case for some time with the Settler dApp. XRP and Swift are both rails on Corda Settler. This doesn't mean Swift payments will use XRP in any way." And guest 1 responds to that. "I believe there is a reason why Swift settlement verification function sits within the XRP Oracle service class." And that's already starting to get a little too nerdy for me. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the Oracle service is, but let me continue reading this. And then Michael responds, "Oracles can interact with multiple networks at once. They likely just need to update the name to Oracle service now that there is a GPI link rail." Guest 1 responds, "My question is, why not simply create another class called Swift Oracle class? If you place both verify XRP and verify Swift settlement functions in one class, it's because you want/need them there together." And Michael responds, "Likely because they are both a rail on Corda Settler dApp, the Oracle can relate to either settlement rail. Someone like @Hammertoe could probably answer this more efficiently here." And scroll down, and he did chime in. So here we go. Yeah, here's Matt Hamilton, and I want to read a couple of these tweets from him here. So he wrote, and this is insightful. So once again, guest 1 is trying to claim Swift doesn't settle transactions, which is true. But Corda Settler is not for settling financial transactions in a payment sense. It is for settling financial obligations. And by the way, this is me talking now. The whole thing with the Corda network, that's a smart contract platform, and I've covered this in the past, so I'm not going to revisit all the information that I've cited on this, but the Corda Settler can be used to settle financial obligations utilizing XRP, and there will be other payment settlement options as well. But XRP is the first cryptocurrency to be used as a settlement mechanism for those particular smart contracts, which is different. And then Matt Hamilton's next tweet is, for example, if Business A owes Business B $1,000 in return for services rendered, then as far as Business A is concerned, when they instruct their bank to make the payment and Business B receives the payment confirmation, the obligation is settled. It doesn't matter to the businesses that if behind the scenes Bank A, used by Business A, now owes Bank B, used by Business B, hasn't settled the payment, and it still takes 3 to 7 days. So the fact that Swift GPI can make the settlement very rapidly is all they care about. Now, to you and I, we know that behind the scenes the banks need to take the volatility risk, have funds parked in Nostra Vostra accounts, etc., and XRP may eventually help that and lower costs, etc. And so what it makes me think when I read through that, and it's a very good point, when you're talking about the fractured banking system, there are some ways, if you're just moving money, for example, from the United States to the United Kingdom, for example, that's not a particular payment rail that has a lot of friction in between. And as long as there is a Nostro account, you can effectively settle pretty much instantly. I mean, you got banks and you got money in each other's accounts, so that's not necessarily a big issue. And so I think that's a fair point to make here. And last tweet here from Matt Hamilton on this. This is, I'm sorry, actually, let me read this first because there's a question responding. So you bring up a good point, and he's responding to Matt Hamilton. Between trusted entities, instant payments with delayed settlement is okay. That's the point that I was just making. Okay. Where instant settlement becomes important is between two entities who lack trust, like a payment sent across border to someone without a bank account walking out the door with cash. And Matt responds, correct. This is where I used to bring WireX, XRP Tipbot, and Coil as an example. They are three separate companies with no relationship or trust between them, but as they transfer value using XRP, they don't need any trust as the payment is instantly settled. Exactly, yeah. So that is the point that I was trying to get at right there. So here's what I think about this. As far as it pertains to Swift using XRP, the way that things are set up right now, understand that Swift is only a payment system. Payment and settlement are very different. The payment is just the messaging portion of it, where parties are notified, hey, this is what's going on, and the Swift technology is unidirectional, which is a problem, but that's a whole different thing. And if you want to settle, you have to use money that's already parked in bank accounts across the world. Now, the solution for that, of course, as we know, is Ripple's XRapid, which utilizes XRP for on-tap liquidity. What I want to point out here, and I think this is a rather key point here, even though I can't answer whether or not, I don't think anybody can firmly answer whether or not Swift will ultimately use XRP. We can speculate on it, and that's fine. It's fun to talk about these things. But I want to point out something that nobody's brought up yet, and that's that Ripple's XRapid, which utilizes XRP, and Corda Settler, which uses XRP, are two very different pieces of software. As Matt pointed out, he didn't really get on the whole point that I'm going to make, but he mentioned that the Corda Settler, it's used to settle financial obligations, in particular as it pertains to the smart contracts on the Corda network. XRP, used via XRapid, that's actually software that is designed, there's an algorithm, it's an efficient path-seeking algorithm, and so when things need to be settled on XRapid, it's all done in an automated fashion. That's the reason it's so quick here. And it can be done. Of course, XRP is a trustless system, so you don't need to trust all the other parties, and that's a huge part of what makes things so speedy. And it's why you can take out all the intermediaries. You don't need to trust anybody; just trust cryptography that's behind XRP in the first place. But as it pertains to the way that the settler is written up, and I can state this without knowing the code itself, it doesn't matter because R3 has been very public about what the purpose of the settler is. It's not something, just understand this and you'll understand the point I'm making. The Corda Settler is not XRapid. They don't do the same things. There is no automated path-seeking algorithm. All right. Otherwise, I mean, if anything, they would need if Swift wants to use XRP, they're going to have to use different software. I don't. If you want it automated, you can use it to settle, and you very well may be able to. I don't know the specifics and the intricacies of what that would look like, if it's even possible with the existing software, but it's not this automated system, and it's not something that's necessarily tapping into liquidity from exchanges. You need those pools of liquidity like you get with XRapid, and so I've seen nothing to that effect as it pertains to Swift utilizing potentially XRP. There's no note of a pool of liquidity. And in fact, when I've talked about the Corda Settler in the past, I've talked about the opportunity for XRP to be used on a broader scale if R3 gains adoption with their technology. But I have posed the question, and there still is no reasonable answer. It's okay. So if R3 is going to utilize XRP for settlement, where are they getting the liquidity for that? What are they tapping into? Is it an exchange? And I haven't seen anything on that so far. So that's part of the puzzle. But even if so, there's no indication that the settler could do any sort of automated payments. It's more like if you wanted to use that, it's more like if you're Swift and you actually want to use XRP, I don't see how currently, if there's information out there, please let me know. But I don't see anything where it would make sense for Swift to utilize the Corda Settler to utilize XRP. It's more like if they want to use XRP, maybe write some new software, because I don't see how the settler is going to do that if it's not designed to be automated in that capacity. Because when it comes to settling smart contracts, parties still have to agree to that, and it has to prompt the actual movement of the XRP. So that's what I think on that. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Feel free to drop some comments below on it, but that's pretty much where I'm at on that. All right, next piece here. There was a debate between David Gokhshtein, I'm so sorry, I don't know how to say the name, and Tone Vays, who is the Bitcoin maximalist. And here's the video. I'm going to link this below. Feel free to watch the whole thing. It's a little over 36 minutes. I watched most of it, and there's a couple things that I want to highlight on this. Okay, I have to be critical here, so I want to be real clear up front. Anything that I say that is critical, it's purely from an analytical perspective, so please take it at that. I don't know anything about David. He seems like he comes across as a genuine and nice guy, and he's pro XRP, so he's like, if you want to make things tribal, he's on our side, so I appreciate that. There are a couple points that I wanted to bring up where I am going to be a little bit critical, but in a friendly way, in a constructive type of way is what I'm going for. I just want to be clear on that. It seemed to me, it's not like David did not bomb the entire debate, but there were some key things that I saw where it just seemed to me like a little more preparedness would have gone a long way in particular. Because frankly, just from what I saw, and I probably saw about 2/3 of this debate, I mean, Tone's wrong about everything he says about XRP. But to me, it looks like if I had to declare a winner of the debate, I think Tone won. I honestly, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, and I don't mean it as Tone is right about XRP. He's wrong. He is wrong, but he won the debate, I would say, if I had to say that. And so there are a couple things that as they were debating, Tone was posing questions to David, and he just didn't have answers readily available. And I'm probably a much bigger XRP dork than David, so I knew the answers right off the top of my head. And I was like saying them. I was like, no, it's this. Say this. And I was hoping that he would, and then he didn't say what it was. But let me name a couple of them. There is one in particular that's so important. If somebody ever asks you, well, why not just use a stable coin or a bank coin instead of XRP? Why not just use that? Because Tone's whole point of view was that it doesn't make sense for X to use XRP because it's really the way he sees it, and maybe he's being very genuine. Tone sees Ripple's selling of XRP as nothing but a money grab. He says that you could do the same thing that Ripple seeks to do with XRP, you could do it with stablecoins, and that's just blatantly false. And do you want to know why? If I had to sum it up in one word, it would be trust. Trust is the reason that you cannot do that. And there's more to it, of course, because if you're using a stablecoin, that's a walled garden, and a stablecoin is it's actually a liability. And these are the types of things I was looking for David to say, but he was having trouble on this. Now, to his defense, though, also, like, I'm sure that was more of a high-pressure situation, and if I were being live streamed, and then, I mean, who knows if I'd react as calm and as cool as I think I could otherwise, so maybe I would have bombed it too, to be honest, but nonetheless, it just comes down to trust. And you're never going to get geopolitical alignment between governments the world over. You're not going to do it. And that's why the banking system's fractured in the first place. And so what he would have needed to explain in order to answer that question for Tone Vays is he would have had to have gone into the way that the correspondent banking system works today, which is it's a chain of bilateral banking relationships. And you have to explain the reason that it's fractured. I'm not going to redo the whole thing here, but this is essentially the answer. It's that there's no trust, because the way that money moves around the world now, it only happens between parties that have trust amongst each other, and it takes a long time to build those relationships. And since you can't take the time to build a relationship with every other bank on the planet, you have to trust other people that trust other entities. That's pretty much it. This eliminates that. But you can't do that if you're using a coin that is a walled garden, because there are different incentives aligned with that. There's absolutely no way to actually make that work. And then what was another one that I wanted to bring up? It had to do with how is the money saved? This is the other one where Tone Vays just apparently literally doesn't get it. He's asked, how is it that Ripple's technology and XRP, how does it save the bank's money? And then David's response to that is, and he read a quote from some source. It may have been the Ripple website, I don't know, but he was talking about how you can save up to 30% with XCurrent, and you can save up to another 30% with XRapid, as he stated. And that is true. That's absolutely true. But Tone was pressing him. He said, "Okay, but how? Why?" And then it's true. There was no additional explanation given. And so the broadest way that I can answer this is the reason that there's all these expenses right now, the reason that cross-border payments are so expensive is because there's so many intermediaries, and all of them have to get their little piece of the pie, so to speak, as transactions occur the world over. Especially if there's a long chain of bilateral, like a chain of. I'm sorry. If there's a long chain of bilateral banking arrangements, then each one of those little banks in between has to take their little piece of the pie, right? And so that's very expensive. You can cut that out. You're cutting out the middleman that is part of it. But as it pertains to the messaging portion of this, just so XCurrent specifically, which doesn't use XRP, the answer for that, how does it save money, is, well, it's all automated, and you don't need layers of human management there. And when you utilize XRapid, that's automated for settlement as well. I mean, I just cited earlier in this video the fact that XRapid uses an efficient path-seeking algorithm for settlement. It just finds what's the cheapest route period for settlement via the way the network's set up to that point, with all the access to various XRapid enabled exchanges and all the liquidity sources. And so it finds those, where's the best price for XP, this or that, and then it completes the transaction. It's all automated. Well, you used to need people to do this, and then it would go through many banks, and that's the reason it would take days. You're taking out, the reason it used to take days is because it took so many humans to do this. You're cutting all of that out. And so that's the answer for that. That is the answer. And so Tone Vase is wrong about everything, and I respected David for going publicly and doing this. I probably would have been like super nervous to even try that, even though I know I'm right too. So I don't want to I understand again. I want to say that, this is nothing personal whatsoever. This is just my honest analysis, and it's just constructive criticism is what I'd say, while also acknowledging that I maybe would have bombed too, because maybe I would have been nervous. I don't know. I'm a human too, so that's what I wanted to say on that though. But here's Tone Vase, and he's got a tremendous following, 191,000 followers, and he describes himself as derivatives trader, analyst, and YouTube content creator. And then David, here's his page. He's actually got I already had him up, sorry. Entrepreneur, motivator, member, and contributing writer at Forbes Finance Council. And also, this is interesting, he says he's running for U.S. House, New York, District 1, 2020. Which I found fascinating. And then he had this to say, and I do like this is kind of heartwarming, to be perfectly honest. So this is after the debate, and David, just a few hours after the debate, and David tweeted this out. The love that I've received from XRP Army before and after the debate, thank you. If there is a next time, the outcome will be completely different. So I think he kind of knows, and he did actually. I'm going to read another tweet from him, but from what he was saying, he kind of acknowledged that his emotions kind of got the better of him. But I'm not going to be terribly critical on that, because I'm a human too, and that easily, as much as I try to calm myself, I could have gotten really nervous and tripped up in a live interview like that too. Especially if I know there's a lot of pressure and people are right. And if I can't edit out anything I say wrong, at least to be sitting here, and I don't normally need to do it, but if I need to cut something out because I realize I said something incorrect, at least I can do that. But when you put it out in a live stream, it's like, no, that's that. So I totally respect the fact that he even got up there and did this. But here's somebody. Oh no, here's the one that I wanted to read. Okay, so somebody named Sean Matthew tweeted this in response. This is in a constructive feedback manner. You did not seem very prepared. I can't stand Tone Vase, but he was very calm and asked very reasonable questions that you seemed to sidestep and answer very vaguely. Why do you think that was the case? And then David responded, there was a point where he wasn't accepting the facts I was presenting, and I felt like he was cutting me off and purposely talking nonsense. Regardless, it's on me to keep control, and I didn't do that. Prepared with facts, but not prepared for his BS. So that's fine. So I want to share that with you. Again, I really do appreciate anybody that wants to go debate any Bitcoin maximalist on this stuff. Hey man, I'm in your corner. This is only constructive criticism, but it takes some guts to get out there and publicly do something like that anyway. So I still think it's cool. But on to the last piece. This is not XRP related, but really fascinating nonetheless. This is from Cointelegraph. This piece is titled, Venezuela sets new Bitcoin volume record thanks to 10 million% inflation. Crazy. So check this out. Venezuelans traded more bolivars for Bitcoin than ever before last week, but the statistics say more about fiat than cryptocurrency. Data from CoinDance, which tracks trading activity on peer-to-peer exchanges, local bitcoins, Paxful and Bisq, confirmed the 7 days to July 20th were Venezuela's biggest on record. During that period, users on local bitcoins alone generated volumes of over 57 billion bolivars, beating the previous all-time high of 49 billion, which appeared in the previous week. As Cointelegraph reported, Venezuela's currency continues to suffer from runaway inflation, which estimates claim has reached 10 million%, leading citizens to resort to alternative means of storing value. The country's official alternative state-issued digital currency Petro was declared a failure by a United States nonprofit this month. And so what I wanted to say on this is the whole concept of a cryptocurrency, in this case Bitcoin, being utilized as a peer-to-peer cashless system. There's no counterparty. There's no central authority saying whether or not you can actually do a transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain. The whole concept between that that blockchain being used as actual money in the place of fiat currencies, that will never take hold in a first world country where there is no friction. And that's why, if you think about what Ripple's doing with XRP, they're going after the low hanging fruit, the corridors where there is the most friction to start first. And I know that's a different use case. That has to do with cross-border payments, but conceptually it's quite similar. And so if you're talking about Bitcoin being used in the place of money, you got to ask yourself, what problem is that solving? Well, for me, Matt, Moonlambo, Mr. XRP Bull, using Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency isn't solving a problem. My dollar works just fine here today. If that changes, I'll be open-minded. But right now, there is no incentive for me whatsoever to change what I'm doing, even if settlement is slow, even if the United States government is printing a bunch of dollars, today, at this particular moment, it's not a problem. And so I had always posited the idea that if there are instances where there are, say, third world countries where inflation runs rampant, those would be the types of situations where I supposed that individuals would be most likely to try and change their means for, well, maybe storing value, sure, but a means for payment also. And payment admittedly can still be costly, of course, with Bitcoin. Transaction fees are high, and they're only going to get higher as the network becomes congested, as traffic increases. But I could see this use case taking hold at some point. I just don't think we're anywhere near that yet. I think you're going to see areas that have a lot of friction actually adopt it first. So third world countries would be the ones more likely to do that. And that's assuming that they still have access to internet and this and that. There are going to be a whole lot of other issues associated with it. And that's why I won't be surprised if we don't see that use case. If it ever takes hold, I won't be surprised if it takes decades for that to become a reality in any meaningful way anywhere in the world. Because today, realistically, nobody's using cryptocurrency to buy stuff. There are some, but those are outlier instances relative to the rest of the transactions that are occurring the world over. So again, I think it can happen, but this is the type of thing where I see this, and this is what I think, okay, lots more of this type of activity would help lead to that type of adoption if there's proper scaling. And even then, here's why I think it's okay if it does take decades. Right now, part of the reason for the volatility is there's such a frenzy in the world of cryptocurrencies, but that's going to die off, just like everything was so volatile in the world of internet stocks in the 90s. That died off as the frenzy around the technology subsided and people started to understand what was going on and rationality took hold. Well, you're going to see the same thing with this technology too. The only reason it's so volatile, it's not something innate about the technology that makes it that way. It's that it is new technology, and this is how humans behave. When there's new technology like this that could be really world-changing. And it's amazing. I've seen two instances like this in my life. It was the internet and now crypto. Who would have thought that? That's crazy, especially in such a short period of time. And so eventually the volatility will subside, and that'll make it a lot easier for these cryptocurrencies to be used as money, assuming there's proper liquidity and you can solve the scaling issues. But yeah, the volatility will subside at some point, so that problem will solve itself. It'll go away eventually. But anyway, interesting, just food for thought. Let me know what you think about this below. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say are right. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!